Okay, so an often under-celebrated but really useful feature of integrated development environments are their code navigation features. Now, it may sound boring, but trust me, it can save you a lot of time, make you much more efficient. So I highly recommend you look into this in your favorite IDE. Today we'll be using Visual Studio Code, but there are many IDEs out there with different code navigation features. So here I open Visual Studio Code. First step in navigating your code is to navigate your files. On the left, there's this Explore tab where you can do just that. So here I have this tutorial demo folder or directory open. And here are all the subdirectories and files within that. You can also see here that I am connected to SubMIT. I'm actually running Visual Studio Code on my laptop here, but I'm connected to SubMIT. So this directory and all these files live on the SubMIT servers, not on my laptop. But we can click around and browse these and open these up. Another handy feature on the left is this search feature. So this allows you to search not only the open file, but also across the other files in the directory. So this can be very helpful if your project is large and spread over multiple files, obviously. If you're familiar with command line tools, grep might come to mind as another way to do that. So now focusing on this Python file, let's say we're down here in line 24 of our code. We see this call to this function vector magnitude. So we want to know what the definition of this function is. We can right click and say go to definition, or more likely, we can learn the shortcut key associated with it so that we can get there even faster. And it takes us right to the definition of this function. Now, what's extra nice about this is in a large project, this function may not be in the same file. It may be in some other file that's not even open in any editor. And this go to definition can take you to the definition in that other file. So let's go back down and see we can do even less context switching if we want. We can right click and use this peek feature and say peek definition instead of go to. And what that will do is it will stay here in this same line, line 24 of our code, but underneath it, it opens this peek window. And in this peek window, it shows you the definition of this function. You can see it's showing us line 3, etc. of our code. So we can not only read this, but we can also go in and even edit the code within this peek window, which can be handy. Then you just simply hit escape or X to close it down, and we're still where we were in our code. Again, very handy if this definition is in some other file somewhere. This works the other way. We can go to this definition and right click and say peek references. And it'll bring up a peek window. And on the right, we can see the list of all the places in this code which call this function. So for instance, the first reference is here in the definition. We click on the right, the second reference is here. It's called within this maximum extension function. And clicking down here on the right again, we can see the same line of the code where we started before, where this function is called. Again, very useful, can save you a lot of time. Another handy thing, we can collapse our functions if you want to only show the first line, the names of the functions. You can also split the window. You can choose split panes left and right, have different sections of the same file open at the same time. And another thing which actually maybe is a little more in editing, but since we're talking about functions, we can see down here, we calculate the kinetic energy of this mass spring system, but we store it in the variable K. We might say, okay, up here in other functions, K is a spring constant. So maybe we want to change the name of this for readability. We can right click and say rename symbol again, or use the shortcut key. And let's say we want to rename this to KE for kinetic energy. Now what happens is only the K's here in this portion of the code changed. The K's within that function, which are in a different scope, did not change. Change this back. I'll go up here to this function to show you it works the other way. We can right click and say rename symbol. And if we want to change that to something like spring constant, again, changes within this function, this K remains the same. So there's many other code navigation features you can look into. I'm just trying to show you some to convince you that if you haven't already, this is something that It's worth looking into and can save you some time. Look into it in your favorite code editor or integrated development environment.